Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation, folks. It is Friday, so happy Friday to everyone. First and foremost, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to first talk about what's happening here out of the state of California as the city of San Francisco has halted its reparations plan after citywide budget cuts. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Also, is there a boycott brewing for the state of Florida as the Black Nurses Association has officially announced that they're moving their national conference from Florida to California? Wow. Also, later on, we're going to be checking in with our sister, Corinna Denise. She's going to talk to us a little bit about this question. Should convicted felons be allowed to vote? This is based on a piece of legislation that is being proposed by Representative Ayanna Pressley, as she talks about everyone, and then she means everyone should be allowed to vote. What do you think? Also, later, we're going to talk about New York cosmetologists, how they're now going to be required to work with all hair textures in a way to eliminate hair discrimination. So we're going to talk about that, all of that, and of course, your comments as being part of our online culture crew is all happening on today's edition of The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Oh my goodness, folks, it is officially Friday. So happy Friday. Let's get a little something horns for the Friday for coming up this week. There we go. That's what I'm talking about, folks. Happy Friday. Oops, let me get myself together here. But folks, welcome to the show. We got a lot to talk about, but before we do, let me give just letting you know where we are streaming on. Of course, you can check us out on our home network, our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you check us out on our website, download the app for free, follow us on social media. And of course, we love to hear from you, and we would love to get your financial support. Folks, trust me, you don't want to miss an opportunity to be an investor and a stakeholder in this digital space that we call home. So make sure you show us that you have the power to make sure that you support this Black-owned content like never before. So go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, we are streaming on Amazon platforms, on Amazon News, on your Fire TV, Amazon Prime Video. You can check us out there on Prime Video app under Live TV, the news, or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, the news. You can certainly see us there. We're on Freevee as well. So make sure you go to Freevee, where we're on now under news, and we would love to connect with you there. And also, we're on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network or find us on Live TV under News and Opinion. There it is right there. Big shout out to my online culture crew. Folks are checking in from all across the country. Whoa, there we go. There we go. I see y'all, ABX girl. Peace, ABX, the ABX girl. We will thank you so much for checking in as always. Batman for President is checking in. I was talking about reparations for all the victims of the BLM riots. Really? Okay, Batman for President, kicking this off. We see you. Pauline Hurt, I see you. Thank you so much for checking in. Victoria Brown, you in the great city of Los Angeles. Well, LA is here. Absolutely. We are definitely here. So, Victoria, thank you for checking in. Sister Debbie Muhammad, peace and blessings, Sister Debbie. Thank you so much for coming in and being a part of the conversation as always. Joanne Brooks, I see you. Thank you, Joanne, for checking in. Conscious Thought. Good afternoon, sir. Good to connect with you. Official Sanika, cut the check. Y'all jumping in on the reparations piece already. I love it. Pastor Damon Blissett, my brother, thank you so much for checking in, big brother. As always, checking us in and representing for the Block Church. Cindy D, I see you there, sis. Cindy D, thank you so much. Kathleen Davis, Kathleen, good to connect with you. Can't wait to hear what you got to say about these conversations, Kathleen. And Janelle Fields. And Janelle, thank you so much for checking in as well. Folks, you can do the same as we're streaming live right now on Roland Martin's YouTube page, as well as Roland Martin's Facebook page. And then all our Facebook watchers, you can join the conversation as well. We'll make sure you get your comments in the chat. But thank you, thank you, thank you for being a part of the online culture crew. All right, let's talk about this. Let's go with this first story, folks, because I saw this and I was like, we keeping our eyes on what's going on with the reparations movement here on the culture and on the Black Star Network. You can't deny it that this is one of the big conversations. And as we look back at 2023, I think one of the big significant stories is this story, this movement around this push around reparations, which really took a lot of momentum this year in 2023. And so as we're looking at this conversation, as we're seeing stuff happening here in the state of California, we're hearing things happening in New York. Of course, we know that things are happening in the state of Illinois and Evanston. But now there is more conversation about how do we get moving on funding any type of reparations plan. And this has been, of course, a big discussion for a lot of cities, especially the big cities. But in the city of San Francisco, it looks like they were on track to moving forward and establishing an official office. Now, a lot of places have been talking about how we can get this pot of money. San Francisco was talking about how do we establish an official office around this very, very important and necessary discussion about reparations. Well, it looks like the plans for that has halted, because based upon the numbers and the budget and the priorities for the city of San Francisco, it doesn't look like reparations is that important. I hate to say it like that. Here's what's the latest from BT.com, folks. Take a look at this, where it says for the upcoming budget of 2024, Mayor London Breed slashed the entire reparations office, along with several other programs totaling $75 million in cuts. According to City Supervisor Shaman Walton, advocated to fund the reparations office earlier this year, called the cuts disheartening in an issue statement, saying, "I understand the importance of no cuts to existing programs, but the Black community will continue to pursue justice and equity through reparations here in San Francisco. My hope is that the city's deficit is eliminated quickly so that we can fund the Office of Reparations and fulfill the commitment made to address the historical injustices and inequalities that have persisted for generations for Black San Franciscans." Now, Mr. Walton initially requested $50 million to be earmarked for the creation of the Office of Reparations. He then reduced the amount to $10 million. That's a $40 million cut, before securing only $2 million. Whew. So from 50 million folks to 10 million, and then he only was able to secure 2 million will be used to hire staff and fund various programs. Now, according to Ms. Cheryl Davis, the executive director of the San Francisco Human Rights Commission, she said the city will continue to work on several of the reparation plan's recommendations despite the budget cuts. She said, quote, "A lot of the work, it'll be tight, but we'll leverage some of the funding we had in our budget." That's according to Ms. Davis. Crew, talk to me. What do you make of this, as we're talking about San Fran is looking like they had to make some very, very tough fiscal decisions about reparations, and should that have been on the chopping block? What's your take? I want you to post your comments in our chat. We're streaming live on YouTube. I would love to hear what you have to say. I know, Official Sanika, you said earlier, cut the check. Yeah, cut the check. Well, I don't know if that's going to be a hard one. But here's the question, though, and Official Sanika, I'd love to get your take on this. You know, if what will it take? Like, we don't know what the budget is for the city of San Francisco, right? So I'm sure that there were a lot of things that the city has to account for and has to pay for. But how much of a priority should this be? Now, my thing is, from 50 million to start the office, they're only securing 2 million. Does this open up the conversation, or at least open up the door for us to look for outside funding for something like this? Like, if the city of San Francisco, the city supervisor, Mr. Walton, and others who are part of this effort to establish the Office of Reparations in San Fran, should they look outside of the city money and say, okay, we're going to get money from, I don't know, a nonprofit organization. We're going to get money from individual donors. Would that be the best course of action? Or, and I think San Francisco can either lead the way on this or be a model on how to maybe not approach this, is that we should just simply rely on tax-paying money to establish this. Now, again, this is the Office of Reparations. This isn't just like a line item in a budget that said, okay, we're going to, here's $100 million, now send it out to Black folks. They have to create an office there so that way that money can start getting funneled in. So I want you to post your comments, share your thoughts, and let me know, what do you think the city of San Francisco can do to keep the momentum alive and making sure that the conversation around reparations doesn't die down or isn't slashed along with those budget cuts that Mayor Breed all had to do. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's have more conversation about this, as we're talking about San Francisco's reparation plan being halted by citywide budget cuts. Stay with me, folks. We're just getting started right here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We've been talking about what's happening in the city of San Francisco as Mayor London Breed had to make some tough fiscal decisions for the city's budget, for the 2024 budget. And as part of those tough decisions, she had to slash $75 million from the budget. And part of that 75 was for the establishment of the Office of Reparations in San Francisco. Now, this was going to be an office that was going to be supported by the city, that was going to be responsible for the whole thing relating to reparations and repayment to qualified Black San Franciscans. But now it seems like things has come to an abrupt halt because of these budget cuts. Now, originally, the city supervisor, Mr. Shaman Walton, he advocated for funds to be given for the office. He at first was hoping to get $50 million. That didn't happen. He then reduced the amount to $10 million. Then that didn't happen as fast and as necessary as he wanted it to be. And then he only was able to secure $2 million, which would be used to hire staff and fund various programs. So they're working from maximum capacity to a shoestring budget at this point, kind of pulling people together, probably getting some volunteers, probably being able to pay just a few, staff members, getting some volunteers, working within the communities, and more importantly, not having a full throttle effort to support the reparations movement in San Francisco. Now, I want to hear what you have to say, crew, on this whole situation. And again, you could post your comments in our Roland Martin's YouTube page in the chat, as you're a part of the online culture crew. And folks are checking in from around the country. Give me your take on what do you think San Francisco can do, especially Black San Franciscans can do to move this thing along, to keep the momentum going? Should we look at outside money, outside of city money, taxpayer money, to fund this office? You're still talking about the state of California, so there's still a lot of wealth here in the state. So you're talking about, hey, let's tap some of our wealthy in the community, the Black community of San Francisco, to help put in, create a pot. Are we talking about going to nonprofits, a nonprofit organization or a group of nonprofit organizations to establish this? Like, how can the city of San Francisco still be able to work on something? And this could potentially be a model that on how other cities move forward on the reparations plan if they're planning to use taxpayer money. So we're talking about getting secured funding for reparations efforts that are not at the risk of things like this, citywide budget cuts. Let's talk to me, folks. You post your comments on YouTube, on Roland Martin's YouTube page, post your comments on the Facebook page, and we'll try to get to as many of your comments as possible. All right, let me do this. Let's go. Let's get in here what y'all have to say. Janelle, my sister, you said, Janelle Fields, you said providing for the general welfare of people in this country have always taken a back seat. Although it's in the Constitution, it clashes with capitalism based on white male property owners. So we're seeing that. We're seeing that capitalism. We're talking about limited resources. We're talking about the fact of how much of a priority is reparations for the city of San Francisco? Just like any other major city where Black folks are found, how much of a priority is it? That's a great question. Great point. Thank you so much, Janelle. You don't like my music. Welcome to the chat once again. I'm glad that you're joining us. You said this, sir. I don't think most cities can afford adequate reparations. The Fed should be doing it. That's a good point. Excellent point. If there was a reparations federal mandate of some sort, right? But I think, and I know you already know this, you don't like my music. A lot of this is, I think the president is open to having the conversation to a degree, but I think that he's trying to hold it down because a lot of this stuff is still going to be on state money. So, I think it's like, let's see how the states move forward on it and then take it to the federal level. But from a political organizing strategy perspective, I think that if you get a handful of states behind this effort, right, that are saying, yes, we can do it. This is, we can start a fund to put some money or earmark some money, but we would love the federal government to add more money, kind of a matching program type of situation. It may get more traction, may get more momentum. But I think that in terms of the organizing of it, you got to have some states behind it. You got to have some states behind it because it's going to be a hard sell to Republican-controlled states. It's going to be a hard sell to folks who are kind of like in the middle around this issue. So, you know, you want to make sure that you kind of have all your ducks in a row and line them up. So that's a good point. We just have to, I think it requires some serious community organizing or statewide organizing. Conscious Thoughts, you said, quote, Mayor London Breed is under, quote unquote, a lot of pressure from right-wing media and business community in San Francisco, but no one seems to be helping to present solutions. No one seems to be helping to present solutions. That's what I'm asking. What do y'all think could be done? How do you think that the mayor can move forward? How do you think that the city of San Francisco can be supported in this effort? But I like where you're going with that. Thank you so much, bro. Official Sanika, you checked in again. You said it really doesn't sound like a priority at this particular point. Hopefully this is not some sort of symbolic issue that drags out for decades. Well, it's been dragging for decades. You know what I mean? Official Sanika. So I get your point. I think this is the best time to put the foot on the gas because there's so much talk about it. So much talk about this. So I think this is the best time to do it. Let me throw a couple other things in here for us to consider before we take our next pause. The San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee, their plan in one of their recommendations, remember I told you that since they cut the budget cut, they made these budget cuts or announced these budget cuts, that the who else? Not the city supervisor, Ms. Cheryl Davis, the executive director of the San Francisco Human Rights Commission, said that they're going to do their part to work on several of the reparations plans recommendations. Well, the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee had initially recommended paying qualified Black residents of San Francisco $5 million as compensation for generations of systemic racial discrimination. Also, the committee included more than 100 recommendations to address the wealth gap in its official report. So they were looking at paying each Black person who was qualified $5 million for those who were eligible for it. So does that mean that maybe they should tamper down that recommendation and say, okay, let's pay us $1 million or $2 million? So I just wanted to throw that out there, that you got all of these competing interests, especially for the dollars, right? For the city of San Francisco. Going back to my initial question, should San Francisco look for outside sources of revenue for this effort? All right, let's go back to what you got to say, crew. Continue to post your comments because I'm loving what all of you are saying. Cindy D, my sister, welcome back to the chat. Good to have you as always. You said model cities and upward mobility were catchphrases in the 70s in Black parts of big cities. If not for redlining, people would be better off financially. We take one step, they take back two. Yeah, that's exactly it. Redlining has destroyed some sense of financial and political power for the Black community. And guess what? The opposition, those who are against the rise of our interests, they understand that dynamic. And we're just talking about it now in a much more big and national conversation. But they've been thinking about this. And then Cindy, I know you already know this. They've been doing this for 50, 60 years, 70 years. They've been like, you know, we're going to chop this up. We're going to break up this community and that community. We're going to make sure that we get more representatives for this neighborhood and less representatives for that neighborhood. I mean, that whole thing, gentrification, redlining, these are tactics of structural racism that we see still at play in 2023 going into 2024. The redistricting conversation. This is not nothing new. This is something that's been around. All right, let me get one more take in it before we go to our next pause. Patrick Singleton, welcome to the crew. Welcome to the chat. You said it's time to just do it. I'll hear you. It is time, bro. It is certainly time. My God, Benny Hill checking in. You said this is extremely revealing. Absolutely. Very, very revealing. Kathleen Davis, you said, what are the eligibility requirements to get the money, land, or whatever? We got to take a look at that. That's a great question. I think that requires an answer to that. So we'll have to take a look at that. Look, let me just say this. Let me throw this into the mix as we take our next pause. Mayor Breed first black woman to be mayor of the city. She did not give reparations her full endorsement. She actually said in an interview, I guess in some words that in a statement, quote, she said the mayor said she will, quote, continue to lift up marginalized communities, but that the federal government should lead the effort for reparations. I'll let you handle that however you want to handle that. She said she will continue to lift up marginalized communities, but that the federal government should lead the effort for reparations. So we're talking about a mayor who is not in full-blown support. She knows that something needs to be done. She knows that to some degree it's you know, but she's taking that risk. She's taking that risk. Now here's a black woman talking about reparations like this. Is this going to be a problem down the road? She's taking that risk. Look, got to take another quick pause when we come forward. Let's get a few more minutes on this and then we switch gears a little bit. But she's taking that risk, folks. She's saying, look, I'm not in full support. I'm going to help the marginalized communities. And do you think that will be an issue that we need to have? Is that an issue for this movement? Stay with me, folks. We'll continue to have this discussion on the other side, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about San Francisco is under a little dilemma as Mayor London Breed, the first black mayor of the city of San Francisco, had to make some tough financial and fiscal decisions. And she slashed $75 million from the budget. And as part of that $75 million, was funding to establish the Office of Reparations for the city of San Francisco, as that city is part of the wave of cities around the country that's looking to repair the damage that was done to Black people in that part of the country. And this has brought up a lot of conversation about the priority of reparations. I'm posing a question about, if there are other efforts, financial options that the city can take to fund this Office of Reparation. Again, this is not just like, okay, a one type situation. This is creating an office about reparations, repairing the damage. And so the office was looking to have a lot of money, about $50 million that they requested. But at this point, they've only been able to secure $2 million to hire some staff members and to host various programs. And yet the city of San Francisco is now being pushed down the line as being possibly could have been one of the big cities that have established something like this. But now that doesn't look like it's going to happen. Mayor London Breed has shown that she is not in quote unquote full endorsement, but she's still willing to quote unquote continue to lift up marginalized communities to have this conversation. All right, let's go back to you, crew, to hear what y'all have to say. And many of y'all are checking in. I love hearing from you. So make sure you keep posting. A Mosley, checking in once again. Good to connect with you, A Mosley. I'm glad that to see you back in the chat with us today. You said one of the most powerful weapons we have to get reparations is the vote. We need to put ourselves in positions of power in order to take care of our needs. Let me add something to that, A Mosley. I think you're right. The vote. Here's the other thing. Do we need to start pressing Black political leaders or even white political leaders? What's your stand? I'm talking about more Democrats than Republicans, because we know GOP. That's a different ball game when it comes to the conversation of reparations. But for Democratic political leadership, do we need to press them and say, hey, is reparations a part of your political agenda? Is that the move that we need to start taking instead of hoping that they think about us? We need to push it on them, lobby them, and let them know we're going to hold you accountable if you say that you think we have reparations. I don't know if that's happening in mass around the country. I don't know if that's really the push that Black folks are pushing on Democratic leadership. So does that need to happen? Because you got a Black woman who's mayor of this city, right? And she hasn't come out and said, yes, I'm gonna make this happen. And I think, I'm gonna be honest with y'all folks, and we've said it before, but I think it's perfect time to reiterate it. Your budget, I don't care what the person says out of their mouth. The money that is established, the line items in the budget says it all in terms of a person or an administration's priorities. That's it. It's just like in your own personal household. You can say that you love a lot of different things, that you stand for a lot of different things, but where you put your money, that is the priority. And that's how it works in city government. That if the city government if they're slashing things, it's not a priority. If they're funding things, it's a priority. It's just that simple. You can't tell me you're slashing it and say that this is very, very important. That doesn't make sense. So where you put your money is where your priorities lie. Let's just stay there. All right. Let me see who else we got here. Ming, CC Knight, you said, greetings. What's the blueprint for everyone to follow? We have the numbers. We work together. Absolutely. That's the blueprint, CC. That's the blueprint. We work together. We have the numbers. We work together. And again, if we tap into the resources, again, maybe it's something very different, grassroots and revolutionary that we need to do in terms of saying, you know what? If the city can't do it, how about we ask the city to open up the resources where citizens can put money away that the city can look into, that the city can secure. This is citizens' money, right? Citizens' money. If every Black citizen or working eligible Black citizen puts away a certain amount of money per month, but we need a pot to put in, and that the city can oversee, make sure that the money stays safe, make sure that no one touches it, that it's city money, it's the people's money, right? Outside of the normal stuff. that this is a special reparations fund that citizens can add the pot to and start raising the money that way. It might just require some drastic grassroots, people-oriented initiatives to get this thing moving. Because my concern is that not just in San Francisco, but in any other city that's considering a reparations plan, that if it leaves the money just on the city government, right? And city government have a lot of demands, a lot of interests, and a lot of priorities. Do we do ourselves a disservice as Black folks in various cities across this country to expect them to carve out a space for us? I don't know if that's necessary as much as, okay, you may not need to set aside some money, but at least remove the red tape for us to raise our own money. Am I thinking crazy on this, crew? Am I thinking crazy on this? Or there's a matching program that if the city said, look, if y'all as the people, if Black people in this city, if Black people in LA, if Black Baltimore, Black San Francisco, Black New York, right? If Black folks put some money up, then we'll match it. Something. I'm just thinking outside of the box here a little bit, right? To show that this is a priority. That, okay, if the city can't fully fund it, can the city open up the conversation to where we don't have as much red tape and that the people can fund this at some point in time? So if the city of San Francisco got $2 million already secure, and then we ask the question, well, how much more money do we need to raise? 10 million to at least get the office started, 10 million to get some full-time staff. How much money do we need extra to get we may not need a space. Maybe we use a church. Maybe we use a school. The city can use resources, because in every city, it's hard for me to believe that no city has those type of relationships. You can't use a school or a building that hasn't been used or it's not totally condemned, a building that hasn't been used for the past year, something like that, and say, look, this is going to be your a makeshift office until we figure this thing out. I'm just trying to think. Pastor Damon, you said, why are we putting money up? We're putting money up to establish the office, right? Not to say that, and that's what I'm thinking, we need to groundwork for establishing the office. And if we put money up to establish something, Brother Damon, you tell me if I'm thinking crazy or not on this, then we become stakeholders. Then that becomes community money, community fund. And then we determine, it's not at risk of city stuff, because we are now community. It's community driven. That's what I'm thinking. Francesca Epps, you checked in. You said reparations should be paid by the federal government. They got money for Ukraine and Israel. I mean, yeah, it's all, and I agree with you. I agree with you 1,000%, and that's absolutely true. But I'm working from a space of reality too, Francesca. I'm working from a space of, do we, what can we do? Because there's always going to be something coming up. There's going to be something coming up, whether it's Ukraine and Israel, whether it's, we got to have extra money because, we took money for public safety. We took money for this, and it's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. So I just wanted to kind of get your take on that very quickly before we move on. But I agree. I totally agree. Debbie Muhammad, you said, no way, Farajii. They didn't ask us if we wanted to have slaves cut the check. I hear you. I hear you, Sister Debbie. I hear you. Cut the check. But I don't want them to say, okay, we couldn't fund it in 2024. Y'all got to wait till 2025. Then what? It's just dead. The effort dies right there. Cindy D, you said the government prioritizes its money, not to us. Yeah, well, I'm hearing it. I hear you. I hear y'all. I hear you. Sean Ryan, you said reparations for what? Especially in San Francisco. Reparations for every Black person that has been affected by slavery. That's why, Sean Ryan. And I mean, it don't matter what state, it don't matter. Like, we all have been affected by what happened through the chattel slavery. We all have been affected by that. And if the way they have, and the conversation of reparations now is based upon your locale and how long you've been a resident in that whole situation, whatever's going to happen, whatever it takes for us to get some level of repair done, whether it's financial repair, whether it's land, whether it's whatever the case may be, we got to figure it out. We got to figure it out. Reese Robinson, thank you for checking in. You said you need to not be gun-ho. Wait before you tell all your mind. Reese, I want to know what context you mean that in. Thank you so much for posting that. But what's the context that you're saying that in, sister? You're saying so you need to not be gun-ho. Wait before you tell all your mind. Okay. Okay. Look, I got to take a quick pause. Let's keep this on a burner. And then let's think about it. I wanted to shine light on it. San Francisco is now being looked at, but this is part of the challenges, right? And then y'all can see we've been keeping up on this reparations movement. It is not easy. It is not a one quick swipe. It's not a broad brush that's going to be stroked in order for us to get this thing done. We need to think through this, and it needs to make sense to government. It needs to make sense to us as the people. So we're going to keep this thing going, and we'll take a look at it. On the other side, let us talk a little bit about what the Black Nurses Association is doing as they are talking about making some major moves. I'm going to check in with my sister, Corinna Denise. And of course, I want to get your take on it. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about the San Francisco reparations plan being halted as a result citywide budget cuts that Mayor London Breed had to make as a result of their priorities for the city for the 2024 fiscal budget. And many of you are checking in because, you know, my thinking is that maybe we need to figure out other strategies outside of just expecting city money, you know, or state money for this. Not saying that we can't advocate for that, but I'm just saying that if there's an opportunity for us to move the ball forward, push the needle forward a little bit better or a little bit further to get something more concrete in place, should we think about some sort of community effort in that process? Now, not to say that we pay ourselves. No, that's silly. But just to say, here's money to establish this reparations piece. And A. Mosley, I want to get to you. You said, Farajii, the money is already there through the taxes we pay. I understand what you're saying. But if somebody, A. Mosley, if somebody said to us, hey, if y'all pay $5 a week, if you pay $20 a month, and I'm saying extra, somebody said, look, here's a plan for reparation to establish some sort of reparations office, some sort of reparations fund, and we'll pay, and all we need you to do is pay $20 a month, $5 a week. On top of all your normal pay, you know, taxes and stuff like that, would you be willing to make that donation, make that sacrifice? $20 a month. And I'm just saying, imagine that type of proposal to every working Black person in San Francisco, eligible working Black person. Hey, look, we just need $20 a month, $5 a week for us to establish a reparations fund outside of city money, but it will be protected. Would you be willing to give something like that? I would be willing to give something like that. I would be willing to pay a little bit extra. I'm gonna be honest with you. Coffee, whether you smoke cigarettes, whether you, whatever your thing is, buy liquor, whatever, something else that would have to be sacrificed if we only have to put up a few dollars extra per month out of our own pay to establish something like a reparations fund. And I'm not talking about we paying ourselves. Again, I'm talking about creating a situation where our reparations is in a, I don't want to say reparations fund. That means like we're paying ourselves, but, you know, creating some space for that. Let me bring in my sister, Corinna Denise. She joins me every Friday here on The Culture. Corinna, I want to pick your brain on this for a quick moment. And welcome, as always. You're looking bright and curly.
Bright and curly. Happy Friday. Thank you.
Happy Friday, Corinna. Corinna, you are a critical thinker, and I wanted to pick your brain just for a few minutes for this. But I hope I'm not sounding crazy. What would you make on this? I mean, you are you're a political thinker. You're a voting advocate. But for something like this that is as important, and you see a Black man that is not really, she's not really trying to do it like that. This is not a priority for this man to establish an office of reparations. So we voted her in. We could say, yes, vote. That's all well and good. But if Mayor Breeze, I don't know when her term is up. I have to take a look when her term is up. What do we do? How do we get the ball rolling? Because I don't. It would be a tragedy for us to just stop the efforts for reparations just because the city said, well, we ain't got no money this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I guess the next step after voting, right, is actually holding our elected officials accountable. So what does that look like, right? Aside from protests, lobbying, writing, calling in, you know, what exactly is the reasoning for halting this? You know, off the bat, it seems like it's just an easy out to say, hey, we don't have it, so we're going to have to put it on pause and then hope that the citizens just forget about it and they can just move on, like that always happens, right? But residents in San Francisco definitely can't let up on the gas. They have to, you know, remain focused on the goal at hand and, you know, apply some pressure and ask them to present just cause. Why is this halted? It was already in the plan. So like, why are we cutting the budget all of a sudden? And, you know, trust and believe there are things in there that were not cut, just like any other company, corporation. They always make room for the things that they actually want. But unless the voters and the citizens are actually applying the pressure to say, no, we want this back in the budget, then they're just it's an easy out for them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and that's the thing, and I'm glad that you said it that way. And I know that people are checking, and crew members are saying, like, Damon, brother Damon, you said this still doesn't make sense. Sorry, I'm missing it, Farajii. And I'm trying to just say that it's not saying that we would refund our own reparations. I'm saying that if the cost of opening an office of reparation takes, say, I don't know, let's say $10 million, right? And the city says, well, we can't give you that. So do we not open up a reparations office? Do we not?
No, we need to find an alternative path. Okay, well, it can't work this way. What's another way? The choice is that it has to be done. It's not a matter of it not being done at all. So how do we make it happen? Okay, it can't happen this year with this budget. What can we work with? Either way, you're not getting out of it. And that's how we have to think when we approach our elected officials, basically letting them know, like, look, we need to find a way to make this work. There's no negotiation. Why are we putting this on pause? I'm sure there are other things that probably could be put on pause that aren't as urgent, but for whatever reasons, they don't feel like the reparations is urgent. For a plethora of reasons, we know why. We talk about it all the time on this show, on this network, and in our own spaces in general. But yeah, like, you have to keep applying the pressure because, you know, I hate to think that it's just a surface thing too, Farajii, like, oh, let's talk about it, and then all of a sudden we're going to find a way to impede the progress, right? To kind of just put a dent in the plans and not follow through on what we said, hoping, again, to my point, that the citizens will just let up on the gas and will just forget, and then they can just move the hell on and forget that reparations was ever on the table. But we can't forget. We can't have a short-term memory, and we have to learn how to maneuver when there's a bump in the road, right? You can't just give up. You can't just walk away. All right, it's not working with the city budget. What's the budget? How can we work within the budget? Either way, we need to make this happen and make that very clear that we're not going to walk away and just accept what you're saying so easily. Oh, after citywide budget cuts, because why are you cutting the budget anyway? Like, again,
I mean, budget cuts happen. Let me tell you, but see, that's the thing. Like, budget cuts happen in all the time, right?
Those salaries don't get cut though.
No salaries get cut. Come on, y'all.
No upper line. Okay.
We don't. No, nobody's salary is going to get cut.
Nope.
Nobody's salary is going to get cut, right? Unless you're unless the man got a beef with you. Unless the man got a beef with you, right? So, but and I'm saying, albeit that, I'm just making a point. Like, again, this is not. I'm not recommending that we fund our own reparation. I'm recommending that we fund the mechanism for reparations. Like, and I'm going back to what the city of San Francisco has said they initially wanted to do, which is create the Office of Reparations. So if the city can't establish that and the state doesn't establish that, then who is responsible for establishing this office? Not to say that you got to establish the reparation. You just establish an office, right? And then come back to the city and say, okay, we're establishing the office. Now y'all still got to give us the money for the damage done for our time in slavery. So, Brother Damon, you mentioned, and you said another path, yes, Farajii. From our pockets, no. That's what I'm saying. And I understand that. And that's what I'm trying to get to too, Brother Damon, that we got to look at something else, right? Like, what alternative ways can we establish the mechanism to handle or to work in the mechanism like an Office of Reparation? How do we get that off the ground? How do we, because the Office of Reparations can start off with talking about reparations, but then it could possibly, and I'm thinking down the road here, Corinna, it could morph itself into the Office for Racial Justice for marginalized communities. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have a different office, a new, brand new institution. So that way, from this point forward, every new administration has to fund the Office of Reparations / the Office of Racial Justice. I'm just thinking ahead. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, long term, right? Not just in the moment, but how do we keep this going in the future, right? When the current elected officials, let's say they leave office or they're voted out or whatever it may be, you want to have something foundational that's in place for it to continue, right? It can't just be this one-time thing, because again, we have to establish some things and make it solid, because they can easily just walk away. And it just feels like there's always a moment that they're looking for, or an opportunity to just put something aside that we the people really want, right? And we know the back and forth and the struggle it has been to get reparations, right? Even on a federal level. So a lot of cities and states are kind of like looking into their own initiatives, but it's going to be up to the people again to keep the pressure. And to your point, Farajii, looking at the long-term game, right? Not just in this moment, not just in this year or next year coming up, but the long-term games, to make sure we actually follow through and get to the finish line and get reparations.
I mean, yeah, because I would like to think about long term. That's the whole point of reparations. I mean, I think if people say cut the check, right? Like if we've been having this conversation since the show started. People, it's one thing to get up money, but it's another thing to be like, okay, let's put some long term systemic solutions in place. And that's what some of these cities across the country is looking at doing. Evanston, New York, other places. Folks are saying, okay, yeah, we can get the money, but what about land? We can get the money, but what about college? What about college admissions for marginalized students and for students in marginalized communities?
And Farajii, if I may add, that's a great point, because a lot of us always forget with reparations. Reparations means to repair. And it really irritates me when I hear that cut the check, cut the check. I'm like, that's all you want? Like, yes. In my view, there will never be a dollar amount that could ever compensate for what we have gone through as a people. Now, that's not to say that we're not deserving of a dollar amount. The specific amount, that has yet to be determined. But what I am saying is that reparations means to repair, right? And again, repair our systems, repair, us being able to just walk into a bank, apply, and get a home loan easily, and, not have to be scrutinized and held back on like our white counterparts, okay? Like our school systems, education, so many other things. We want repair in every area, every crook, every cranny, to help us thrive in this country that we built. And that is what we want. We have to remember, it's not just about the monetary value. We need repair overall. And that is important. And I think we always have to reinforce that, because they could very well just come up with any old dollar amount, say we gave you the reparations, and move the hell on. No, we want repair in totality, not just.
There it is right there. I love it. I love it. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk a little bit of, speaking of repair, it looks like the Black Nurses Association said enough is enough. And a boycott may be brewing for the state of Florida, as the Black Nurses Association has now announced a major move that they're planning to do for next year's conference. We'll talk a little bit about that, get Corinna's take, as well as your take on this. Stay with us, folks. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Let's talk about the state of Florida, as once again, it's back into the news for a different reason. It looks like a boycott may be brewing for 2024. This might be on the agenda for Governor Ron DeSantis and his administration, as another organization has officially announced that they are removing or taking their conference, their national conference, out of the state of Florida and relocating it to California. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it? Governor Ron DeSantis and Governor Gavin Newsom, weren't they just doing a debate? Yeah, it happened, folks. This is the National Black Nurses Association, and according to a statement that they had created back in October, on October the 23rd, this is what they said, that the passage, take a look at this. This is from NBNA. They said the passage of anti-Black policies and laws which have taken a destructive position to erase and silence Black history and restrict diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in Florida schools, together with the NAACP travel ban and the recent senseless, racially motivated, hate-fueled murders of 3 innocent Black Americans in Jacksonville, Florida, has created a hostile, dangerous environment in the state. The overwhelming majority of those in this from NBNA, 84% said that they should move the conference, according to Sheldon Fields, who serves as the NBNA president. Mr. Fields said this decision ultimately was made out of the utmost safety for our members. We really could not take the risk of anybody being hurt. Let me bring my sister in, Corinna Denise, who is actually in Florida. And Corinna, as one who is a political strategist, looking at this, can we expect a boycott? Is this the beginning of a boycott for the state of Florida?
Gosh, it's always my home state, right?
It's all. But you know what, though? Haven't we been, look, I remember in the middle of earlier this year, we've been talking about this prior to earlier this year. We were saying, like, when do the Black organizations say enough is enough? When will they take their money someplace else? Let me just throw this out there. It cost the National Black Nurses Association about $592,000 in fees to cancel its July 24th through 28th reservation at the Diplomat Beach Resort, which is located north of Miami, according to the San Francisco Standard. So you're talking about nearly $600,000 that they had to pay in fees to cancel. But they're willing to take the hit to relocate, to take their conference to San Francisco.
Well, yeah, because all progress to make progress, we have to make some sacrifices, right? And yeah, so this isn't the first organization. There have been a couple others. They don't come to mind as quickly as I would want to right now to share them with you, who have pulled out of events or things that they have planned here in Florida with good reason. Friendly reminder for those who may not remember or may not know at all, earlier this year in May, the NAACP issued a travel advisory to folks coming into Florida, given around, all of the egregious laws and things like that. My concern, though, Farajii, especially as a resident, we heard how much it cost the Black Nurses Association, right? The penalty they had to pay. But I need to start figuring out, and I guess we all do, what's going to be the price that Governor Ron DeSantis, oh my God, I can't believe I just called him that, DeSatan, and his administration will pay, for on the back end for folks pulling out of Florida. So, I want to make sure that their sacrifice is impactful, right? That the boycott is actually successful. I also do think, though, this boycott has to be a little bit more organized. I did have a little bit of pushback when the NAACP first issued the travel advisory, only because it just kind of came out very vague. I think folks need a set of next steps, right? How to move forward. What does this look like for us who are actually here on the ground, who will be affected by any collateral damage in real time? And that's so important. And I think a lot of times we miss that and we'll just say boycott, boycott, boycott. But we want to make sure we're actually making an impact to get the results we want from a boycott, right? Why are we boycotting in the first place? We have to remember, okay, because of the egregious laws, obviously we want to put some pressure for them to change some things. But what I will say is, I do agree. I think it's a good thing that they pulled out. Thank you for making the sacrifice, Black Nurses Association. I'm sure a lot of other organizations will follow suit. But also, again, like on the back end, I want to make sure their sacrifice is not in vain and that it's actually pushing us towards progress. And the last thing I will say on this, and I've mentioned it on the show before, again, not to say we shouldn't boycott, not to say we shouldn't keep the pressure up. I absolutely believe we do. But just how egregious everything has been in this Florida legislature and how dominated are by the Republican Party. They have a super majority, right? And I mean, there are some things on the back end that we don't necessarily see, right? Where our small majority of Democrats, they are fighting, right? Where certain egregious bills aren't even hitting the House floor, right? So they are fighting and they're doing their best. But we need to increase the majority, right? There's only so much pressure that will bust this pipe. We actually have to bust the pressure at the ballot box. And I know I sound like a broken record, but we don't need to waste any more time boycotting and pressuring folks necessarily who we know are going to be against us. There's no moral plea. They're not going to change their minds. We need to root them out and move them out of our way so that we can do what we need to do. But yeah,
absolutely, I agree. I agree.
So boycotting, I think maybe in 2024, who's to say, especially with the presidential election coming up, and that satanic devil, he's running. And they changed the rules that if he loses, he can keep his job. So we're stuck with him either way. So yeah, so keep us
absolutely,
folks.
The ABX girl, you said it started this year with the fraternities. Now individuals that will not board cruises in Miami or even change flights for final destinations. And one of the and you're right, the ABX girl, one of those fraternities, Nicole, you said the Brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity moved their conference out of Florida earlier this year. Now we got the National Black Nurses Association. And I'm wondering if this is going to create a domino effect. And it will have more, I think it will have a greater impact because this is an election year coming up in 2024. You have a very contentious, highly divisive, controversial governor and who of the state who is actually running for president. So if you want to make an impact, especially in at least in this election, this will probably be the best opportunity to do so. But very quickly, Corinna, what do you think will happen for Black folks in Florida? You're in Florida. For Black folks there, the Black community of Florida, whether you're in Miami, Orlando, wherever you are in Florida, Jacksonville, what does this say to them? Like, do Black Florida get this message, and you think Black Florida will be supportive of Black organizations no longer doing business with the state?
It really just depends on the area of Florida that you're in, right? I'm
Okay.
born and raised in what is now the city of Miami Gardens, which is actually the largest Black city in the state of Florida. I believe approximately 70% of the city is Black and like Caribbean descent. So it really just depends, how alert we are, how involved we are in our organizations. I think a lot of us really need to push ourselves to get more involved in our local city government, because we'll complain about how organizations are going and how they're not being ran properly. But a lot of times we need to be going into these organizations and lending a helping hand, right? And trying to clean things up and make it better and make things more efficient. But yeah, Farajii, I hope Black Florida is awake, especially
Right.
with all the egregious laws, because we have the numbers. We're just not showing up in enough numbers at the ballot box. And I hope, at the very least, even though DeSantis is running, I hope that brings a magnifying glass to what he intends to do, because we know what he's done here in Florida. Imagine what that will look like on a federal level. And I hope that will be a very motivating factor for folks to become more involved than they were before, right?
Yeah.
And the last
Yep.
thing I just want to say quickly, back to the boycott, I think this is an opportunity to make it more organized for 2024, because one other thing with that NAACP travel advisory, it came out in May. A lot of folks already planned their summer vacations and were heading to Disney World, right? So if you're trying to make some sort of impact, like, no one's going to cancel their stuff like right before. So I think folks need to have enough notice where we say, okay, between this time to this time, this is when X is going to happen, right? For it to be impactful. If we're kind of just sporadic and saying we're not going to do this and do that, and we're not doing it in a large number around the same time, where do they really see the impact? It's going to fluctuate. So I think it does have the potential to be successful, but it has to be very organized. We can't just say we're not going to do a thing. We have to collectively agree when, how we're not going to do the thing for us to see the
Oh,
impact.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that, you kind of need to build on this momentum. But I still,
Yeah.
as much as like the NAACP boycotted, the Alphas boycotted, now the Nurses Association, I'm still expecting it to be like a larger en masse collective, right? And I'm not sure if we're seeing that yet, or if that should, is going to happen over the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, however that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But, even though you got these three major organizations that have said, no, we're going to refrain from doing business with the state of Florida, Florida is still bringing a lot of money from tourisms and conferences and all of these other
and
outside
they're
business.
building up apartments and homes
And building up apartments and all of
everywhere.
that
This is
other
not
stuff, right?
retirement place anymore, folks. Not a
So-
place
so-
to retire. It's expensive.
So no, it's a very expensive, but I'm hoping that more organizations take this situation seriously, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you remember when this travel advisory came out, it was the talk. It was we talked about it, everybody talked about it. Now that talk has died down.
Yes.
And so now with this latest announcement from the Black Nurses Association, I hope it rekindles the conversation that people should have and say, look, you got to tap into your power, whether it's economic power, political power, social power, you got to tap into your power. And my hope is that with this from the Nurses Association, people can say, you know what? We can do this. We can take our power elsewhere. We don't have to keep empowering a state that doesn't want to empower the people of that state. We can take our business elsewhere. So congratulations, and big shout out to the National Black Nurses Association. But for all them other organizations that are trying to figure out where is a sunny place to go, just choose California.
Just don't forget the Black folks here, okay? Because we are here.
No, don't forget the Black folks there. Just choose
And
California.
we need all the help we can get. So please, don't forget us. Y'all know who's in our governor's mansion, okay?
Absolutely. And don't forget Black folks here, and we need more Black folks. Don't forget the Black folks there. We need more Black folks here. How about that? So come on over here, Nurse Association.
So you just
come out of Southern California.
Be more, huh, Farajii? You just live in that.
I'm all about Black power. Come on, Black folk. Come on down to LA. Look, we got to take a quick pause when we come forward. Let's switch gears. I want to get Corinna's take on a new bill that Representative Ayanna Pressley has been proposing about allowing convicted felons the right to vote. Folks, the big question is, should convicted felons be allowed to vote in the election? And Representative Pressley said, yes. What's your take on this, crew? We'll have that conversation on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Corinna Denise, college admissions advisor. She's a political strategist, she's an activist, and she's a contributor that can be seen here every Friday on The Culture. Let's talk a little bit about, as we talk a little bit about something that is near and dear to your heart, Corinna. There's no conversation where you don't bring this issue up, and I love it. Talking about voting, the importance of voting. You are our voting advocate here on The Culture. You put it out there every time. And Corinna, y'all know, if y'all don't know, Corinna be in the chat and any conversation, she'll be like this, and see, this is why we need to vote.
It's the foundation.
This is why we need to vote, y'all. Now, look, I was like, let me put this conversation right here for my sister because I wanted her to get her take on this. This is a situation, a conversation that many people have had for many years, but Representative Ayanna Pressley Our sister is saying, look, enough of just talking about it. Let's put this thing into action. As she's trying to move forward in creating a federal law, a bill to allow convicted felons to vote in federal elections. Now, this is co-sponsored with Vermont Senator Peter Welch. The legislation will, quote, guarantee the right to vote in federal elections for all citizens, regardless of their criminal record. This is big. This is big right here. The bill is called the Inclusive Democracy Act, and it was submitted, and it guarantees the right to vote in federal elections for all citizens, regardless of their criminal record. What you're seeing right here, folks, is right here on Representative Presley's website, presley.house.gov. This is what they put out, the Inclusive Democracy Act. Again, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley out of Massachusetts and U.S. Senator Peter Welch. This act was a quick one-pager here, and it essentially talks about the practice of felony disenfranchisement. It says it here is biased, counterproductive, and it deters eligible voters from civic engagement. And this Inclusive Democracy Act would end felony disenfranchisement in federal elections, guarantee the right to vote in federal elections for citizens who have criminal records, convictions, requires state and federal entities to notify individuals who are convicted, incarcerated, on probation, or on parole of their rights to vote in federal elections. I mean, it speaks volumes. Again, folks, go to presley.house.gov to see the details of this act. A very quick read. It's probably going to take you about 5 minutes to read. But it is a powerful piece of legislation that would open up a whole new voting block, especially for Black and brown community folks, right? For residents of our community, Black folks who have been through the system and come out and they could have changed their lives, but because they got a conviction on their record from 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago, they can't vote. But they're in a different point in their lives. They may be contributing members to society, and they have families. They might even work to help other people vote, but they can't cast a ballot themselves. What do you make of this? Is this good? Should convicted felons be allowed to vote, Corinne?
I think it's good. Thank you, Representative Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Yeah, I think it's good. It's another pathway considering all of the other voter suppression, right? Voter suppression, what does that mean? Where they're limiting different precincts, drop boxes, right? Making it harder for you to get out to vote. You can't have food or water, like the very simple things, standing in line for hours, moving precincts, closing precincts, taking them off of college campuses, all kinds of things. And that's a very important block of people, right? Adding to our numbers. So that we can actually vote in the folks that we want. But I will say, Farajii, I think there's going to be some gray area there as to whether or not, can you vote as a convicted felon if you're still incarcerated or not, right? So I think that's something else that's going to be a red flag. We also need to discuss and make sure folks understand, how does a powerful piece of legislation like this actually get to Joe Biden's desk, right? Because a lot of us don't understand that. And then when something doesn't happen, we just want to point fingers at the president. We have to understand how we get the legislation to put the pressure on our elected officials, especially in that branch, so that we can get what we need to get done. So I would imagine this is going to be a fight. Convicted felons getting the right to vote, especially with everything that they've done so far in the past couple of years to end our voting rights, right? They want to just strip that away altogether. There's going to definitely be pushback, but I think we needed a piece of national legislation, particularly, I don't know if you remember, Farajii, but like LeBron James, like his organization was helping a lot of the felons, pay their fines and things like that to kind of clear up their records so that they could vote. That was an issue. They wanted to try and impede that. I believe Attorney Desmond Meade here in Florida, he was doing a lot of work with his organization to help convicted felons. So, I think this overall federal piece of legislation would be helpful, right? We need something in the law where these organizations are not being stopped, or there's no, brick wall they're running into by trying to help, felons, rehabilitate themselves. Because to your point, there are people who have come back into society 15, 20 years. Why are you still being punished when you've rehabilitated yourself? You pay taxes, you participate in every aspect of your community, but you don't have the right to vote. And at some point in time, that needs to be restored. And I hope this also magnifies, again, what I always talk about, the importance of voting, right? That Congresswoman Presley found it to be important enough that she's going to draft this legislation, knowing that these are folks who deserve the right to vote as well, and they're being counted out. And we need to count everyone possible so that we can create the world that we want to live in and not have to deal with all of these horrendous laws, fascism, which is we're on the verge upon, and dictatorship. We need to have a say in how we move in this country, in our community, because we are tax-paying citizens, right? Like, we pour into this society, and we want to make sure we're pouring in and we're not being left half empty, right? That we're being poured into. That's true. So
absolutely, yeah, I agree.
I know there's going to be some pushback, but man, I hope we see it through. Well, I don't know if it's going to get through this current Congress, but
and look, and this really helps. This really helps black folks. This really helps the Democratic Party.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Because just because of the ongoing relationship where you have a party like the GOP that has the party of quote unquote law and order, that this right here won't bode well for them in terms of the actual numbers of folks that would be eligible to the vote, and then in terms of the philosophy of this, right? So this would be a huge win for the Democratic Party to get this type of support behind them. And this is the long game right here, Coretta.
Yeah.
This is
the long game, right? That we always talk about, that they missed that moment. This is the long game, because if
I hope they do it. I hope they do it. I really hope that President Biden is able to constantly push this. Because, and I know some of our people probably think they're convicted felons. Let me tell y'all something. Convicted felons, once you've done your time, and I'm like A. Mosley, you posted something, brother, that I think is absolutely true. You said, after you have served your time, how is it that you are continually being punished with things like being called a felon? You're absolutely right, bro. Once you have done your time, you have paid, quote unquote, paid your debts to society. Yeah. You got to keep paying even when you're out of prison, even when.
Not to mention, not to take away overall, but not to mention the number of innocent people,
right,
who are in prison, right, and then they come back into society and they don't have an opportunity. It's like, okay, you're coming back out. I'm working. I want to contribute to society. I should be able to contribute with my vote as well, as to who's put into these positions of power that directly impact my life, convicted felon or not. Period.
Right. Absolutely. Benny Hill, you checked in and you said poor whites and incarcerated whites definitely have a different perspective than their brothers that haven't had to live in a cell. Well, look, let me tell you something. If you coming home, whether you poor, whether you white, if you have an opportunity to voice and express, to voice your opinion through the ballot box, that's a major situation. That's a major situation, right? It's one thing that maybe, and this could be a part of this legislation, even this could be thrown in, that say, you can't allowed to vote. Say if you come home in 2023, that you can't be allowed to vote in the first election cycle, but you can vote in the subsequent election cycle.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There'll be some great area there, right?
I could see somebody bringing something like that up, right? But we're talking about literally, Coretta, millions of people who would be eligible to vote. And if this thing passes, imagine the voting numbers. But again,
so we got to get them registered and then get them out. And the last thing I'll say too, we got to make sure we add on that voter education piece, right? Because there are a lot of folks who vote, but then we're not voting completely down ballot. We don't recognize how important it is that, we have power. We have a say in who we want to sit on the bench, right? A circuit court judge or things of that matter. So we have to make sure we understand our vote in its totality when we go into the booth, right? When I walk into the voting booth, I already know who I voted for. I already did the research. I have my preliminary ballot or whatnot. And I already know I'm kind of just going down and filling in, right? Everyone's not doing that. So I think not only for our convicted felons who are trying to rehabilitate themselves back into society, but we got to remember that education piece for everyone. But I hope that is tied into this part because we want them to exercise their right to vote, but we also want to make sure they understand it and they're voting accordingly.
Right, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lana, our sister Lana, you said all Black people should get behind this. Absolutely. Absolutely. We all, and I hate to say it like this, we probably all have at least one person, and I'm saying as Black folks in this country, we probably all have at least one person in our family that's in, that's
and Lana, what does get behind this look like, right? We need to be holding their asses to the fire, right? Now that we know this is on the table, we need to be writing, putting pressure, calling them up, pushing them to pass this bill. Because I think the dynamics of the House have changed a little bit. I think the GOP now has a majority by 1 seat or 2 seats. So it's going to be a challenge to pass it in this current Congress, but it's not completely impossible. But we have to provide the support for this by laying on the pressure that we want to see.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that again, folks, and I'm going to encourage each one of y'all, go to presley.house.gov to read the summary, the details of the Inclusive Democracy Act that would end felony disenfranchisement. There's another part of this act that it says that this provides a private right of action to enforce this legislation. It also talks about providing guidance to state officials to not prosecute citizens in carceral settings who complete an election ballot. Ensure citizens in carceral settings have access to information about elections through mechanisms available to them, such as the internet, campaigns, and third-party groups. I mean, you're talking about empowerment. You're talking about education. You're talking about getting them involved and fully engaged in this back into this process. And if you've given, like I said, I'm going back to what A. Mosley said, if you have given your time, if you have paid your debt to society, you give them 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, you should be allowed to cast a ballot. And guess what? They're hoping that when you are inside that you are involved with a bunch of foolishness so that when you do come back home, you're not involved in politics, you don't know what's going on and all of those things. But a lot of our Black men, they go in one way and they come out another way, and I'm saying it in a way of consciousness. They become conscious, they become more politically involved. And so this is a huge win. And so I'm like, Lana, we should all get behind this because it benefits not our community, it benefits our family, but in the long term, this is a long game strategy. And big shout out to Congresswoman Presley and Senator Peter Welch of Vermont for thinking of this. This is what we need. Look, we got to take a quick pause when we come forward. Hey, Corinna. Can we talk about Rudy Giuliani? Pull it up, Corinna. Breaking news. Rudy Giuliani, y'all. I'm just saying, because this is the beauty of the crew. The crew is already talking about it in the chat. I'm like, I had to tell the team, pull up Rudy Giuliani. Let's talk about Rudy Giuliani and what was determined as a result of his defamation case and lawsuit because of his bad mouthing 2 Black women down in Georgia for simply doing their job as being vote workers. Y'all want to know how much money this man has been ordered to pay?
Very good. Can't wait.
Let's take a break, y'all, because I'm crying tears of joy. Let's stay with us. It's the Culture on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape, with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network, joined by my sister Corinna Denise, who is the college admissions advisor and political strategist. And the final story is based on breaking news, folks. We've been talking about the story of the two black election workers out of Georgia whose name and whose reputations have been defamed as a result of one man, Mr. Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York City. Their reputations took a hard hit, and they were at the center of controversy, lies by Mr. Giuliani, who was working on behalf of former President Donald Trump, blasting them as being the big pawns in the 2020 big lie of the election of 2020. And so as a result of that, of course, these two black women, Shay Moss and Miss Ruby Freeman, mother and daughter, they have decided to move forward and taken legal actions against the former New York mayor. And they had testified. We talked about their testimony just earlier this week. And now the determination has been made by a federal jury today, which ordered Mr. Giuliani to pay over $148 million to these two sisters who were falsely claimed and for committing ballot fraud back in 2020. This is a jaw-dropping figure that includes $75 million in punitive damages, along with awards of $20 million to each of the two election workers for emotional distress, and more than $16 million each for defamation. Whew. Guess how much they were originally expecting? 47 million.
Wow. You know,
they were expecting 47 million. Can you imagine you going to the court and be like, man, I just expected 47 million. And then the judge like 148. Your whole face just gets.
You know, maybe Rudy might enjoy a ginger mint to kind of calm him.
$148 million. Look, that man was complaining about 47 million. Check this out. It was an 8-person jury that was only required to weigh how much Giuliani should pay the women in damages after the federal judge, this is according to the Washington Post, after the federal judge in the case issued a default judgment against Giuliani back in August based on his admissions and failure to turn over evidence in the case. So he lied. He then admitted to lying. He didn't turn over certain evidence against him. So he got hit for that. Then we talked about it on Wednesday with Suzette Speaks, our great contributor. She said he was on the steps of the courthouse on Monday of this week, continuing the big lie. The judge said, you keep lying, you keep talking. Keep talking, Mr. Giuliani, because the price is going up. And guess what? And y'all remember when I told y'all his lawyer was like that this would be the death penalty for him if he got 47 million. Well, sir, dig up the grave now.
Well, I didn't know if you caught it when I said it.
Let me pass you the
Farajii, do you think he might want a ginger mint might calm his nerves? You think that might help him?
Ginger mint?
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? Because all of this, he put these 2 women through this because they exchanged a ginger mint between mother and daughter, a damn ginger mint. And you know what? I said this in the chat yesterday. This particular case needs to be magnified in our community, the Black community especially, right? Which ties into the importance of voting in our civic duty, right? They work the elections all the time. And you know what? If you haven't seen it, folks, I would implore you to go back and watch some of their testimony with the J6 committee. It's important. It's very important that we know their story, okay? Because they didn't even have any protection.
Nope.
Not even any protection in their homes. You know what? You know, it's so easy for us to just be like, oh, why didn't they just move? But it's your home. It's not that simple to just pack up your life and move. You know, that cost, that's a mental toll. So I hope this is a step forward for them. You know, some compensation for their pain. Okay. It's not easy to have to be on national television, okay, and bearing your soul and giving your testimony, right? Especially under the circumstances. I remember Lady Ruby, Shamos, her mother, saying, you know, she was well known in her community. You know, she was so afraid just to go out. You know, imagine some place that you're home and you don't even want to step outside on your front porch, all because of a ginger mint and because he lied. And even up until Monday, his ass was still lying. So you know what? I'm glad that he has a 48 million. You know, he ain't got no money for that horrible hair dye. I don't know if y'all remember years ago when he was on TV and that shit was pointing down. Yeah. And I wonder where's your famous, maybe he can go and cry in Trump's bosom, you know. But, you know, I'm sure Trump done kicked him to the side. But maybe Trump could get his little hoard to raise some funds. I don't know. Maybe they'll start a GoFundMe for little Rudy or whatnot. You know, don't disrespect. I know he was a former mayor. He was never my mayor, you know, American mayor, whatever, after 9/11. Whatever. He lied and he's paying the penalty as he should. And yes, but for those who don't know about this we need to know who Lady Ruby and Shamos are. That is history lesson.
It's huge. It's huge. Let's talk a conscious thought. You brought it up, and I agree with you. You said, quote, the beauty of the compensatory damages sets a precedent in defamation cases relative to the voting and election intimidation by Rudolph Giuliani and also Donald Trump and others is huge. Absolutely.
Yeah. And what does it say about the big lie, Farajii, right? What does that say about this? You know, because we can argue. I mean, if
you know what it says, Corinna? Hey, it costs to lie. There's a cost to be paid when you lie.
When you lie. Took a while.
Look,
We're about to
I'm
go
telling
into
you.
year 4, but
Hey, look. Unfortunately, lying is ingrained in the American culture, American politics, everything, right? Lying is a part of our culture.
Yeah.
And when you're lying on this level, the big lie, right? There's a cost that you're going to have to pay. There's a cost you're going to have to pay. And look, I know Giuliani is going to appeal. So there's going to be an appeal. I know there's going to be some tape. Whether they get the full $148 million, we will have to see.
Yeah.
But there's going to be an appeal. There's going to be an effort to try to reduce the amount. There's going to be a whole bunch of things. But I'm telling you, I know he was probably thinking, let me call. He probably still calls Donald Trump President Trump. So he probably, let me call. And you know what, Trump petty as hell. So, Trump, Mr. Trump, you got Rudy Giuliani. Who?
Who is that?
You got Rudy Giuliani on the line.
He's done with him.
I don't take a message. Tell him treat him like a bill collector. Like, tell him.
And you notice everyone who has worked for him has just fallen. They're falling, right? They're just.
Come on, we already know
get kicked to the curb, So is it worth it to you? We already see Michael Cohen. He got the right books now. He can't practice law no more. So who got next?
But see, here's the thing about that. That's a bunch of BS. I'm gonna tell y'all. Y'all want to know a serious pet peeve I have? Don't act like you have a moral compass after you get hemmed up in a situation.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Whether it's Trump, whether it's Diddy, whoever, I don't care. Don't act like now you want to come out and speak out again. Yeah, because I saw this. Yeah, and I saw that. Now you got a backbone. But when that money was coming to you,
we were silent. Because you didn't want to cut off the benefits, right? So
you didn't want to turn off the money. You didn't want to turn off. But soon as trouble started brewing for your benefactor, now you got something to say. Nope, I don't care. Don't act like now you want to be you know what? And you're right. And it was the wrong thing to do. No. It was the wrong thing to do from the beginning.
Right. It's just like some of these GOP members, Farajii, who are like trying to come out now against Trump. I don't give a damn what they have to say because you were with him until you were not. You can't tell me. We knew who he was before he even went into that White House. So I don't want to hear anything from a whole bunch of them. I don't even want to name them all right now. But I'm just saying, when you were in it, right, and you were getting some sort of benefit, you kept quiet. So you have no moral compass. But now that your ass is under fire,
right?
Now you want to sing all the secrets, right? You want to tell it out loud. No.
No. You should go along. You should go down along with them. So, to Mr. Giuliani, there's no crocodile tears coming down these cheeks.
Maybe some hair dye.
Maybe some hair dye. And to Lady Ruby Freeman, Shay Moss, thank you.
Yes,
thank you, sisters. I know your pain can't be quite subsided, but just you can rest assured know that we see you on this side. We're gonna keep your story up because to your point, Corinna, we cannot move forward and have a real conversation about election integrity, election laws, voter suppression. This has to be at the center of all of that. That two Black women who wanted to exercise to do their part to simply help with the election process. It's been vilified, diminished, and completely disrespected. Yeah. And as a result of that, their lives have been uprooted. And guess what? Their stories will forever live on in the culture. We should never, ever let them feel that pain. This was some serious pain.
And I'm glad it happened.
I'm glad it happened because we want to see it. Because Black folks got some fuel for the fire now moving forward. Go ahead.
I just want to add one more quick thing. We should not forget these two brave Black women, but I also want to add to our two Justins earlier this year. That was another lesson, right? Where we saw that legislature voted them out, right? Went against the will of the people. So Black people, when we're sitting here saying, I'm going to sit out, I'm not going to vote, we need to remember these stories.
That's it.
Okay, we have our young elected officials in house, and because they're pushing our needs and speaking on our behalf and advocating for us, they got the boot. And even though they were voted in, the racists in power decided, well, we have the numbers, we're just going to put them out. We don't give a damn what the people say. This is why we need to vote, to show up in numbers and in power. So we can't forget their story or the story of these two courageous Black women. Those are some hard lessons for the year. And again, I think it needs to be magnified in our community for a plethora of reasons. Remember who we are as a people. We're resilient, and we can't let up on the gas. We cannot leave the battlefield.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So big shout out to them. I hope they get their lives back on track. But knowing that you got some money coming.
I hope they have, at the very least, they sleep a little lighter tonight.
That's all it is. That's all it is. Start your life over. Sleep good. You know what I'm saying? Like, this ordeal has come to this part of the, hopefully this part of the ordeal has come to an end. You can get some healing. You can put your lives back together. You can be back to your normal selves, or at least a much more a better self. So, you know, again, big shout out to Lady Ruby Freeman and daughter Shay Moss. Thank you for the sacrifice, and thank you for not taking your foot up off the gas. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but you decided to go through this whole process, telling your story again and again, reliving that traumatic moment in your life, but you never gave up, and we cannot thank you enough for doing that. Rudy Giuliani, hey Rudy, thank you for being so good for the culture.
Maybe send him some Benjamins, you know?
There it is. All right, Corinna, thank you so much. Make sure y'all follow my sister Ren _ Ren 84 on social media, man. She's always posting some great things and always bringing some insight to the conversation. We enjoy having her and joining us every Friday here on The Culture. And thank you so much for Corinna for your insight today. And I hope you have a great weekend.
You too, Farajii. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Crew, y'all know what we do. Thank y'all so much, man. Thank y'all for bringing me up to date on this. If I'm having that one conversation, so many of you were like, Rudy got this going on. Hey, thank y'all. That's the beauty of the Culture Crew, keeping me up to date right in real time. And so, folks, this is what you get every time you tune into The Culture here on the Black Star Network. That's why we actually, each and every day that we open up this mic, turn on that camera, that we need your support to keep you informed about what's happening that affects Black America. Join us in this process. Join us as part of this movement. Go to our website today and download the app at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app on all of your devices. Follow us on social media. And more importantly, we ask for your financial donation to continue to power us through this movement. I want to give a big shout out to C. Barfield. C. Barfield, thank you so much for your donation. Welcome to the Bring the Funk Fan Club at a level 3 rate. Level 3. So C. Barfield, thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Our time has been very well spent. Make sure you follow me on my social media platform at The Real Farajii. I love to connect with you, continue to build the Culture Crew in our community there. So again, thank you so much. Make sure y'all follow me on my Instagram, follow me on Twitter at Farajii, on Facebook at Farajii Muhammad. I would love to connect with you there. Stay tuned. Up next 6 p.m. Eastern time, of course, is Big Brother Roland Martin with RMU, Roland Martin and Filter. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk on Monday for another exciting edition. Big shout out to my production team for making today's show happen. And God willing, we will talk to you on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.